Hello, my name's Samantha Sweeney. I'm gonna say something. Uh, Probably have to really hear what I'm trying to say, but here it goes. 你好，我叫荣明。很高兴你认识你。Sorry, I really butchered that.我26岁. I said, hello, my name's Rongming. Or hello, my name's Rongming. Nice to meet you. What was the other one? I'm 26 years old. So that was my poorly pronunciated Mandarin Chinese. As you can tell, now you know, I am Chinese. I'm Han Chinese. I took a DNA test with 23andMe and found out that I was Han, which is like mainland, not mainland, but like general population Chinese instead of ethnic. There are some ethnic groups within China because it's a big country. I'm making this video because eventually y'all gonna want to know what kind of Asian I am. Growing up, I found different forms that people would ask me what I am. Some of them would come off a bit abrasive, some of them would come off very respectful. I would get versions like, where are you from? What are you? What's your heritage? What's your background? What's your race? What's your nationality? Which is incorrect because my nationality is American because that's the nation I'm from. But for me, I prefer to say ethnicity instead of race. My ethnicity is Chinese. I do not know Chinese very well. As a kid, I had this psychological thing where I didn't want to learn Chinese because I didn't want to be seen as an outsider. I wanted to be seen as very American so I could fit in and no one could make fun of me. Now I regret that. I wish that I had that part of me that I could proudly display today, but I'm gonna learn Mandarin in the future, and that's one of my goals in life. But right now I'm focusing on Spanish because it's more useful in America. Anyway, so I am Chinese American. I was adopted at 14 months through an adoption agency called CAAI or something. I can't remember. But I was adopted at 14 months, and I think the city was Wuhan, China, in the Hubei province, which is the same city that COVID got started. So a little awkward to say that to people during that time. I didn't really have any connection to the Chinese culture. I would see traditionally Chinese families in my elementary school, my middle school, high school, and they would have cultural differences, more Eastern culture kind of differences than I did. What else? I was so Americanized that I went to a very white private Christian secondary school that went from preschool all the way to 12th grade. I was there from 6th grade to 12th grade. There was a moment where they were counting all the Asian people, mainly they were Asian transfers because that's all the Asian people that would come to my school at the time. They were counting them. And they actually, sorry, I heard something go on. They actually forgot to count me. They were like, there's 6 people. And they'd be like, sir, you forgot Samantha. And he was like, oh shit, that's right, Samantha, you're Asian too. I was like, the fuck does that mean? Anyway, so I was so Americanized that people saw me as American, maybe even white, that they forgot to even look at the whole, I don't want to say exotic, but the difference of how that I'm Asian. So, oh yeah, the only connection I had with my culture growing up was strangers or people coming up to me and bringing Chinese artifacts like, oh, look at this. This is an ancient Chinese chopstick, and look at the culture. This is your culture, Samantha. I'd be like, bitch, my culture is America. Like, I know American history, and I know, like, I don't know, the ideals and the values of traditional American history and all that stuff. And I'm proud to be American. I like being American. I like the ideology behind it. There's still some political turmoil nowadays about that, considering the president right now and everything. But anyway, I'm not getting into politics. But that was my interaction with my culture. I would have people bring random exotic foreign artifacts in front of me and be like, this is you. This is what you represent. Connect with it. And I'm like, it felt very weird. I do want to reconnect with Chinese culture, maybe learn about the history, learn the language, but if I had to come down to it, I do identify more as American. It's hard for me to connect with Asians who are ABC, American born, or American born Chinese, or American born Japanese, Korean, other Asian ethnicities, because they still have a connection to their East Asian heritage. Their families have the traditional mindset, they have the language. I do not. I can connect with. There's a word in Hispanic culture, specifically Mexican culture, for Chicano, where it describes someone who is culturally Mexican, but they just can't speak Spanish, and they adopt the Americanized version of Spanish. Mexican culture, or I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the terminology, but for Asians that can't speak the Asian language, and are Americanized and accept the American ideology, I can connect with them. But if I go to somewhere like California, where they have a lot of Asians that are traditionally or culturally Asian, and then westernized, kind of like Asians, it's hard. I feel like I'm not as special, or I don't think it's really that important that I am Asian anymore, because there's just so many of us. But living in a state like Nevada, where there wasn't a lot of Asians, it was nice to get the attention. Like, ooh, you're Asian. There's not a lot of Asians here, so that was fun. The whole adoption story was interesting to tell people too as the icebreaker, because they'd be like gasping and about the whole one-child policy. Look it up. It's pretty messed up. But yeah, that's my introduction to what my ethnicity is, because I know people are going to be asking about it when they see the videos. I'll do another video on my feelings, thoughts, and concerns about being adopted and how that plays into my life. But this is just a video about my heritage and what I identify ethnically. So thank you and have a good day.